This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And here we are, June the 22nd, 2022. And almost a year ago, I had the guest I have tonight on again. On last year, and we talked American pop, among other things, and I have him back. I'm talking about the awesomely talented Ron Thompson. How do you do, Ron?
Well, hello there. Awesomely talented. I like that.
Well, between the two of us, we're lacking in the talent when it comes to being tech, though.
Exactly. Exactly. We've had some issues today.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny because we grew up in a time when there was typewriters, there was phones attached to a wall, and
Exactly.
uh, yep. So there's a lot of benefits to today's technology, instant gratification, and there's a lot of ways that's distracting too, and keeping up with it all. Like I'm going to be 51 in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. So I mean, and I I feel old just with everything coming up, because I grew up with. I mean, my parents still have an 8-track machine. So
51, that's nothing. You're a baby.
yeah. Well, I feel old. I'll tell you that. 2023 has not been very good to me, but my show has been very good. So but yeah, it's been a rough year, and it's been a rough year on a lot of people. You get through one thing, and then it just goes to another. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, yeah. But nonetheless, I remember when we talked last time, you had mentioned one of your big acting inspirations was Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront.
Indeed.
Yeah, and you talked about that. What was it about that? Now, I probably know what your answer is going to be, but I'll get you to elaborate. What was it about that performance that really caught your attention?
Well, I saw the movie On the Waterfront, and
Hmm.
I was 13 years old, and I had never ever seen a movie like that in my life. Just to forget about Marlon, just the movie itself, man. You
Hmm.
know, uh, up until then, everything I went to the movies and I saw them, but they didn't blow me away. I said the actors said their words and they didn't bump into nothing, and they told a story. But
Hmm.
suddenly I'm seeing something that is so real. Elia Kazan, every actor in the movie was sensational. Even even the uh, even the extras,
Hmm.
I believe that they really worked on the doc. But above all of them was this guy, Marlon Brando. He was just incredibly brilliant and real and spontaneous. I'd never seen anything like that on film before. And I walked out of that theater at 13 and I said, because I was always interested as a kid, as a young kid, like young, 6, 7 years old. I was performing and I could sing, and my parents put me in a dancing school, and we did like kiddie shows and stuff. I was always performing. I knew I wanted to be in show business, but when I saw this movie, I said, "That's what I want to do. I want to be an actor, like this guy Marlon Brando, somewhere close to who he is."
Hmm.
And so he, as they say, he turned me around, man. And I was never the same after I saw that movie.
You know what? I see it too because I've seen that On the Waterfront was one of the films that we watched in our history of film class, and it was the section where we were talking about acting, and Brando certainly. I mean, he won the Oscar for that, I believe, and
Yes,
very well deserving. And yeah, great film. And of course, you're probably most well known or most connected with American pop. Now, I've had Ralph Bakshi on here twice, and it was an inspiring interview because I remember, he when I first connected with him, he was having no luck on raising funds for um, Last Days of Coney Island, and
Right.
yeah, and at the time he had pulled out of doing the interview, and I was very distraught, you know. But I reached back out to him the following year because I knew Fritz the Cat was celebrating an anniversary because it came out the year I was born, and I thought, well, I'll keep my fingers crossed and pitch that, and I did, and he responded, and I think this is just my impression. He did the interview just, so I'd leave him alone. But one of the great things about it is at the end of the interview, he said that he's been interviewed a lot of times. He said this was one of the best interviews he had ever done. And boy, did that feel good to hear. He said, I asked questions. He said, I asked the right questions. And I got really, really detailed with that movie. In fact, he came on the following year when Heavy Traffic had its anniversary, and I had another great chat. Now, we're supposed to do one for Coonskin, but it never did come to fruition, and maybe just got tired of it. But you know what? I get two great interviews out of him, and I feel blessed, and they're two big highlights for me. So my question is, what were your impressions upon what was your impressions of Ralph Bakshi upon meeting him for the first time?
Well, meeting him the first time, uh, the casting director, Bob Moronis, who had cast me in a number of things, he called me in to audition for uh, one of Frankie's band members, a
Hmm.
very small part. He had two or three lines here and there. And uh, I went in with three other guys. We all read the band members' scene. And when I read my scene, Ralph stopped me. He said, "Who are you?" And I told him, and he said, he turned to his producer, Lynn. He said, "I want him to read for Pete." That was my first, we hadn't met. I just read one line, and he said, "I want him to read for Pete." And so they gave me, Pete only has one actual scene where he talks. The rest of the time he's prancing around and giving people cocaine and stuff. And so they gave me the scene. I went off. I went backstage and I worked on it. I had I had a really cool leather jacket on, and I had my sunglasses in my pocket. I put my sunglasses on, and I came out, and I said, "Pizza Man, we deliver." And he said, "You got it." He said, "That's Pete." So that's who Ralph Bakshi is, man. He is completely instinctual, and when we finally got to work together, he he listens. He's not the kind of guy that thinks he knows it all.
Hmm.
He listens to uh, what I said. At least he respected me, and he did practically everything, every suggestion that I had. I know Rick Singer, who played Benny, he had a
Hmm.
suggestion on his scene, and he did it. He said, "That's good. Let's do that." You know, so he's open to other people, and so that was my. I had a really good creative time with him. Really good. Uh, before we go further, if you don't mind, I'd like to for your audience that don't know, I'd like to give them a kind of a short explanation of what rotoscoping is.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's interesting you bring that up because Bakshi, had his hand dipped in a lot of different styles of animation. You know, you got your Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic. You've got your Lord of the Rings and Wizards. And then you have American Pop, which is rotoscoping, you know, which is something that was done in Waking Life and Scanner Darkly with um, the director of Everybody Wants Some and Dazed Richard Linklater did those. And yes, that's where you're performing and you're animated over top of.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me just tell the audience so they understand
Sure.
what it is that they saw.
Mm-hmm.
The actors all had costumes and makeup. We were in a sound stage, basically a bare sound stage, and we shot the entire movie there. And we there was hardly any set. If we had to go into a room, there might be a door, but there was no wall. And we shot this entire movie like that. Then it was that movie. It was shot in black and white, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was edited, completed. Then there are 24 frames of a picture per second in a movie. 24 per second. Bam, 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 real fast. Each frame of the picture was blown up into a photograph. This is We shot this movie in 1979,
Mm-hmm.
back when we had real live creative animators, not computers. The
Mm-hmm.
animator took that photograph and traced the actor. Then they drew the background in and colored the whole thing. What you see in the movie is not a voiceover. It is a complete, exact tracing of the actor's physical and emotional performance. So there you go.
What was
I'm
it
going to
like?
show. I'm going to
Okay.
put something. I'm going to put something up so people
Sure.
can. Okay,
Oh,
this is
there
a
you go. Yeah.
yeah. Up on the left side is me as Tony,
Yeah.
and on the bottom right side is me as Pete.
Okay, you got to pull it back a little bit so we can see you as Pete. There you go. I like that. I love the Pete one, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
We all
so
remember him.
yeah, so that was the. I needed people to understand that because that was a problem for me when the movie came out. Uh, 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 Columbia did not want anybody to know about the rotoscoping.
Wow.
They felt that it cheapened Ralph's animation, so which is not true at all.
Nope, not at all.
Since it takes 2 years to do that. But so it was the movie was not a big success when it first came out
Mm-hmm.
because of the way that the uh, the trailers and the advertise. We have a lot of music in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and they advertised the movie with all this music, and it seemed like it was just an MTV movie.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. And when opening night, I don't know whether you've ever been in Hollywood or not. Okay, opening night, the movie opened at the Chinese theater, big theater on Hollywood Boulevard, and you go around way up the street to Franklin Avenue. It's a it's a lot. On Franklin Avenue, there's a line of kids coming to see American Pop. But they didn't dig the movie, man, because they couldn't get into the story. You know, they weren't their drugs could not handle the story. So, and the people that would love the movie, that did eventually love the movie, they stayed away in droves because they thought it was just a lot of noise. So the movie didn't happen, and nobody knew my contribution, they figured all I was a voiceover, and they didn't know who the hell I was. And it was two of the best performances I'd ever given in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't happen. And then I chugged along with my career for another 10 years. I did a few things. One thing was Eddie Olmos's movie, American Me. I had a small part, but a very pivotal role of this junkie in Folsom Prison. It was a really, people remember the role, but I really wasn't doing anything. I wasn't really working. And and then I went through a divorce, and I was really depressed, and I just threw my hands up. I said, I give up. Here I had won all awards. I'd been on Broadway. I'd done this, yada yada yada, and now I couldn't get nothing. And two of the best performances I ever gave in my life, nobody knows about it. And I just stopped acting. I just stopped it dead. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have an agent. I didn't do anything. I worked, took little jobs, uh, uh, um, little, just small, not much income at all, just enough to keep alive, because I wasn't looking for another career. I was an actor, and I knew someday maybe I'll go back. But I went for 15 years like that, and just living hand to mouth. Nobody knew who he was or anything. If I told somebody I was an actor, they said, "Oh, what are you like? Were you like an extra or something?" You know, because if you're not Brad Pitt or George Clooney, you're not an actor. And
Wow.
so, uh, uh, 15 years later, a good buddy of mine gave me one of his old computers. I didn't have a computer, and a friend of mine showed me how to get online, and to see and to get on Facebook. Gregory,
Mm-hmm.
within within a week that I was on Facebook, people from all over the world, I mean all over the world, contacted me. Unbeknownst to me, American Pop, because of the internet and cable and everything, Facebook had American Pop had become a huge cultural classic,
Mm-hmm.
and but I didn't know. And they said, "Man, we've been looking for you," and they knew who I was. They knew what rotoscoping was. They knew how, and suddenly overnight, man, after 15 years of just being in the dark, I had hundreds of fans all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And two of these guys were young filmmakers. One guy named James Dillon, he made a movie of me for me. He wrote this movie. I'll put this up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you see it?
Yep. Cargo.
That's it.
Yep.
Cargo. It was on Amazon for about 2 or 3 years, and now it's on TubiTV.com. It's a very good film. I'm the only actor on film. I'm been kidnapped and held hostage in a cargo container with nothing but a cell phone to come up with $10 million in 24 hours, or they kill my wife and they leave me to die. It's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And and the other director writer is this brilliant young man named Joe Black, who I have made 6 movies for him. None have been released yet. They're all really good films. He's just made contact with some distribution finally that really want to distribute his films. And one of my movies that I did with him should be out by the end of the year, maybe two. And if so, I will contact you and let you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm 82 years old, and suddenly I have an acting career again, and I'm playing leading roles in films. I I yacked a lot about this, but I thought you might be interested.
Actually, people want to hear you, not me. But it's interesting you brought up Joe Black because I was looking through to find some new stuff to talk to you about, and I noticed his name popped up a lot. You've done a lot of films with him. And it's interesting because when I had you on last year, I remember you were in the midst of some of these projects,
Right.
and you didn't have anything to share. And I remember you saying that, and I was like, yeah, maybe we can go into that because like Natasha Hall, for example, is one, and Tellers and Gina and Chicksman, and you Lowtown. Like you've done a lot, Stitches. You've done a lot with this guy. Uh, Obviously,
Natasha Hall. I'm not in Natasha Hall, but Natasha Hall is actually on. I forget what it is. It's either Netflix or Amazon. I forget, but that's actually out right now.
they got you
It's a,
listed as a voice in it.
yeah, but actually, what they did, I was a singer in the early '60s,
Hmm.
and I had a couple of records, and he used one of my records in a scene.
Okay.
So yeah, but Cold Hearted, I think is the name of the song. But I'm not in that movie. But he made a second Natasha Hall called Suffrage, and I'm in that. And that
Okay.
that one may be out soon. Yeah,
What kind of reminds me of is Joe Dante had a bunch of actors he liked to work with, and he'd have them in a lot of them in a lot of the same movies, like Dick Miller and Belinda Blasky and people like that. And one of the people, of course, was Kevin McCarthy. And of course, when he made Gremlins, Kevin McCarthy wasn't cast in Gremlins, so he thought, well, he decided he would just stick uh the hero watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers on television. So you got some Kevin McCarthy on, yeah, in there on the television screen. So that's what this kind of reminds me of. I think he just wanted you to be part of the movie.
yeah, exactly. You're exactly correct.
Hmm. Very complimenting.
Yeah,
Yep.
he
So
turned out to be my best friend.
I would say so. I mean, you've done a lot of movies with him, and when you first met him, um, how familiar was he with your work, like American pop and this, your music and stuff like that?
Very much so. I met him. I had done the very first time I ever. This is like 10 years ago, I think. Uh,
Hmm.
anyone ever knew anything about my contribution to uh, to American pop? Uh, a guy named Justin Humphreys set
Hmm.
me up with at the Egyptian Theater. They were going to be showing American pop, and he had me do a Q&A there. And
Nice.
yeah, it was the first time I ever anybody ever heard about me doing this. Well, Joe happened to be walking by the theater, and he saw that they were playing American pop, and there was going to be a Q&A, and he went to the movie, and before it all started, I was in the lobby talking to people, and he saw me, and he came over and he said, "Are you Ron Thompson?" I said, "Yeah," and he introduced himself to me and told me what a big fan he was of American pop and the whole thing, and so we talked, and then after the movie, he had a picture taken of us, and he took and he knew I was on Facebook, and so we connected on Facebook. And 2 months later, he sends me a script. He wrote this script, man,
Hmm.
and in it I had one of the leads. And this is one of the. It's called Hate Horses. It might be one of the ones that might get
Yep.
released.
Yep.
Just and so that's how we met.
Isn't it interesting though that you make an impression on somebody because like you had mentioned that you had done two of your greatest performances in American pop, and nobody knew about it, and you were downtrodden, and then you get this second wind here when this guy is just inspired by you and just writes a script basically for you. Like I think that's fantastic. It's always nice to have somebody say, you know what, you're inspirational. I'm so happy I've gotten to meet you, and then
Yeah,
you end
yeah.
up working together.
Well, people. I mean, almost every week in the past 10 years, somebody contacts me,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, uh, 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 I've had grown men tell me that that scene with me in the cornfield
Mm-hmm.
when Janis Joplin is singing, they
Mm-hmm.
said, "You made me cry, man,"
Mm-hmm.
and it really touched me. It really touched me, man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a lot of memories? I don't remember if I asked this before, but I'll ask it right now. A lot of memories over the production problems with the last days of Coney Island, because I know Bakshi had a lot of hope in that and ended up being a short film. But
Well, it was
Bakshi, I
always
mean
going
that,
to be
yeah,
short. It was always
okay,
going to be a short film, but he was hoping that it would be like a pilot for a series. He wanted it to be a
okay,
series, not
mm-hmm,
not not necessarily a feature, but a series. But yeah, I got he 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 started out wanting me to play uh, the the dwarf,
mm-hmm,
and then he changed his mind, and then this to happen and that happened, and finally he just asked me if I would do some of the voices, and I thought, okay, well, what the hell, and I did them, and so we had a day where all the actors got there, and uh, we recorded all the
mm-hmm,
voices, yeah,
yeah,
and that I was not knocked out by the movie, by the Coney Island. I
okay,
just didn't dig it. I don't know. It didn't hit me. Uh,
mm-hmm.
uh, I had other friends that like Joe Black. He liked it a lot.
I
Uh,
actually haven't seen that one to be frank,
I think
Yeah.
it's on YouTube. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was. There is a. Uh, I did a short film for him called "This Ain't Bebop," and that was on uh, um, YouTube for quite a while. You might check and see if it's still there. It stars Harvey Keitel, and
Okay.
uh, and I have this scene playing basically the Tony character being reciting a poem in a coffee house. Uh, and it's called "This Ain't Bebop," and it was on YouTube for a long time. You might check it out. And I did that actually quite a while ago, um, about over 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yep. So, are you still doing stuff now with music?
No, no,
No?
not really.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Well, actually, yes. If I wrote me and another guy back in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
early 70s, we wrote a song and we never did anything with it. And one day I sang it for Joe, and
Mm-hmm.
he liked it, and he thought, and he wanted to use it in another film that he did.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in the opening of the film, and so I recorded it for him, and it's on that's on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, uh, the song is called "Picking Up the Pieces."
Okay.
I did that a couple of years ago, and that was my only enter into singing since then.
So what do you have coming up? You got any projects coming up?
Not at the exact moment. Joe's got a couple of things that he wants to do. I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen if we're going to get some distribution by the
Mm-hmm.
end of the year. That'll be really helpful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have a couple of other films that he wants to do. He wants to do. He's done two Natasha Halls,
Yep.
and he wants to do a third one. He wants to have,
Okay.
and I'll be in that. And I was in the second one. Uh, it stars his wife, uh, Cat Black. She's really good, really
Okay.
good. So you can check out the first one. I forget what it's Amazon or
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. I forget which one it is, but you
Yep.
can find it. And it's really good film actually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you'll hear my song in the middle of it. But that's that. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I saw her name and credits. So okay. I didn't realize that was his wife, but yeah, it makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. He's really good. Very
Oh, I'd
unique.
say so. Well, he's keeping you busy anyway. That's fantastic. It's always
Oh
nice to
yeah,
have somebody is that has so much I shouldn't say faith, but because let me see. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I love the fact that he's got all these projects and he knows that you're going to deliver. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, he and also this James Dillon who did Cargo. He's not as prolific. He doesn't make as many movies as that. But this is a good little film. You can check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting. When I got on Facebook, I I looked. I found out that I had a Wikipedia page,
Oh
and I had
yeah.
no. And I looked at the Wikipedia page. There was some things that were not right. There were credits from another guy named Ron Thompson, and but late after I met James Dillon, I met him on Facebook. He told me he did that Wikipedia page before
Oh,
he even met me.
okay.
Which shows you what what kind of impression I had on him. You
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah. Before he even met me at all, he did a wiki. He loved the movie and my work so much that he had done a Wikipedia page on me,
There you go.
and then he
There-
ended up writing this movie for me, and I'm really proud of it. You know, yeah.
You
Any
know,
other American pop questions you got for me? Because
well,
I got a pretty good memory on my work there.
oh yeah. Well, it was last day at Coney Island. Was that the last time that you had seen Ralph Bakshi?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you haven't kept in touch with him, huh?
No, he. I don't think he's doing. Uh, his health wasn't that good even then, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw his. I saw his son, Mark Bakshi.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we had a screening of Pop about 2 months ago at a theater, and there was myself and about three or four of the other actors in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Bakshi, who is an executive at Paramount, and we had um, gosh, I can't think of his name now. The guy that did the soundtrack for Pop. I should remember his name, and I can't think of it now. But anyway, we were all there and did a Q&A afterwards. Yeah. And so
Okay.
I did see Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I've known
I know his other son there, Eddie, also did a lot of
Eric.
yeah.
Eric is kind of like his secretary assistant. He does pretty much everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, with one of the things with American pop that American pop does so well is that it weaves together several eras of different music. Whether it
Right.
be, yeah, it does that well. And I remember when I talked to you last, I asked you what your favorite era of music, and I believe you said jazz.
Uh, I think you asked me which song I liked, maybe because that was California Dreamin'
Mm-hmm.
is my favorite song in there.
Yeah.
But maybe I said jazz. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got all kinds of different music, and of course Ross Kelly being part of this as well. Any
Yeah.
memories there?
I know. I never got to meet her. We were
Oh,
not in the
okay.
same scene. But
Okay. Well, talk about playing two roles, two fairly different roles, but also, you know, you got one that's well, I guess you could say declining, while the other, physically you'd think would be weaker, seems to be the one that's growing stronger. The parallels there were very interesting, and
yeah,
how the two characters, where they came from and where they ended up.
yeah. Well, yeah. You know, t- a real quick story as to how I got Tony. We had done uh, a, like a test. He had everybody, all the major actors that he had cast, come in and shoot a scene for and to film.
Hmm.
And we were all there, and there was a different actor playing Tony. And uh, at that, here's an idea. An example of how open Ralph was. He had his idea was he had us record all of our dialogue, and he wanted us to pantomime our audio. And after and I did it, and I guess some people had a hard time doing it. And I after I and I hardly knew the man at all at that time. And I went to him, and I was playing Pete only. And I went to him and I said, you know, you're hurting yourself in the film by having us pantomime this. You need to have us do it live action. And he listened to what I said. And when we finally did the movie, we were doing it live action. It was we weren't pantomiming. That was out. That's the way he listened to what I said, and he said, "Okay, you're right." And but anyway, we did it that day. I shot a scene. In fact, they ended up using it in the movie. The scene where I'm walking past the old Jewish man who's praying, and I stop and I look at him.
Hmm.
They That was the scene I shot, and they put that in the movie. That's the movie. That's the scene from the movie. And but anyway, about 2 weeks after I do that, he brings me in and he said, "Listen, the guy that's playing Tony, he's a really good actor, but I don't think he quite understands what we're doing with the movie. Do you think you could play Tony and Pete?" I said, "Hell yeah, I could." and, and so he gave me a scene to read, and I did it, and I got it. And So that's how I ended up doing both Tony and Pete. Tony, it was very similar to me in a lot of ways. I left home at 19 years old with $200 in my pocket, going to New York City to be an actor, and Tony left. I don't know how old he's supposed to be, but he left on his own too. He didn't have no money. Uh, he had a he was from New York, and I had an agent at the time that had an accent, and so I worked on it, and I did it for him, and he said, "That's good, yeah, that way." So I got the accent down, and I used a lot of myself. Plus, I kind of patterned Tony after Brando and the way he moved and he talked and all. And Pete was a whole different subject. Pete was stronger, more energetic, and when I was a singer, there was uh, a guy who was kind of like my songwriting and recording mentor. His name was Ursel Hickey. Ursel Hickey had a hit record in the late '50s called "Bluebirds Over the Mountain."
Mm-hmm.
Bluebirds over the mountain, and he very interesting guy. If you Google him, you'll see what an interesting. You could see that there was a similarity to him and Pete
Mm-hmm.
physically, and he taught me how to write songs. My scene with Tony on the bus where I write the song, I write it the way Ursel taught me to write, to get the rhythm of it and just go like that. And so and I patterned a lot of it after James Dean and different people. But I gave him a lot of energy and a lot of strength because interesting story about Eric, who played Little Pete, the little boy. He, if you remember the scene where like I'm really drugged out, and suddenly you see the two of us walking down the street, and
Mm-hmm.
he is in charge.
Yep.
He's in charge, and he's got slick back hair and sunglasses, and he's walking like the older Pete. Well,
Yep.
what happened was before we shot the scene, I saw him with his hair slicked back, and I thought, I went to Ralph and said, "Listen, Ralph, I want to put my glasses on him, and I want to teach him how to pimp walk." He says, "Okay," and I did. And when we shot the scene, I was into my own character, so I didn't know what he was doing. And when I saw the movie, it blew my mind because he was just so strong and dangerous looking, you know. And so from there to my transferring to my Pete, I had to be really badass, you know.
And he had to ward off the when he had the switchblade there whenever
Right,
the potential mugger came, and mugger
right,
decided no.
right.
Yeah. So
And
no, I get it. Um, yeah, I can't believe, look at the legacy of the movie, and it's one of those ones that didn't do well when it came out, but you know what? Box office isn't everything. It's durability that really
yeah,
counts. And
right, right.
yep, and that film has been rediscovered by people looking for something different, something new. And yeah, and I admire the fact Bakshi was able to do many styles of animation. He was extremely gifted, and American Pop is certainly one of those films that stands out in his filmography. He's always done well with music in his films as well. Whatever it is he's chosen, it goes along with the story, not just thrown in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we today we could not have afforded the kind of music that was in this movie
No.
because uh, back when we did it, they hardly charged him anything to use the music. They didn't know, and then that's why it took a long time. It took 20 years to get the DVDs out because then they had to get the rights to the music, and they said, "Oh, whoa! Now you got to pay us." And so it took a
Yep.
while to get the music, and because it's pretty much wall to wall music.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you mentioned, of course, you got no other films coming up. Of course, I do know that Joe Black will definitely have you in more projects. You seem to be very close with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be doing a convention with a Canadian actress, Lisa Langlois, this fall. Do you get to do many conventions?
I did one. I did
Mm-hmm.
one, but it was it for some reason it wasn't very successful for anybody. We didn't have a lot of people show up. I don't know why, what the deal was, but I remember Morgan Fairchild. I, I I get up and walk around because there's nothing happening, and I walked by her. I said, "You keeping busy?" And she laughed. She wasn't doing shit, you know. But I did it. It was fun. It was fun being there and seeing everybody, you know. But I haven't been brought back again. But if they're thinking, well, he didn't do too good, nobody else did either.
How beautiful was Morgan Fairchild?
Yeah. Oh, she looked the same. Yeah, she looked the
Mm-hmm.
same.
I
And
bet.
uh, let's see, there was quite a few people there, TV stars
Mm-hmm.
mainly, and uh, the, one thing that did happen was there was about four different guys came at different times and said they came just to see me,
Isn't
and
that awesome?
they had posters for me to sign, and they paid me to sign them, but yeah, there's about four different guys that did that.
There you go. It's always nice when you hear somebody say they came just to see you. It's
Yeah,
yep, yep.
yeah,
So mhm. Well, hopefully you'll get to do more of them. I know they got a lot of them in the States. I get a few here in Canada. I do mine in Toronto, you know. I got a passport last year, so who knows? I might make it to one of them down there at some point. Maybe chiller. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But
yeah.
you got any charities that you want to plug and promote on here that you're involved with?
Well, let me see. I have I have a website.
Yep.
It's called Ron Thompson 100 actor.com. Is it 100? Is it? Maybe it's just Ron Thompson actor.com. And it's a pretty good website, actually. There's a bio. There's pictures from a, a bunch of TV shows and films that I've done, and there's even a couple of records uh, that I had made that are in it. And
Okay.
there's an acting reel. So it's a good website. I think it's just ronthompsonactor.com. I think that's all it is. And
Okay, yeah, I'm just looking it up here, yeah. Can they get signed stuff on there?
uh, well, if they contact me, I guess
Okay,
maybe.
sure.
And let me see what else is there. Is there anything on it? Well, I'm on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and usually I don't accept anybody that that doesn't have a mutual, but if they send it to me and say that they heard saw your podcast, then maybe I'll see that, and then
Okay.
I'll accept them. Let me see. I'm on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ron Thompson Cargo,
Okay.
and I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, yeah, and I'm just kind of rolling along.
I think it was Tommy
I'm not.
Kovac from Splat from the Past that connected me with you and recommended you strongly, and that was when I had you on the first time.
Who did?
Tommy
Who
Kovac,
said
the
again?
host.
Oh
Tommy
yeah.
Kovac, the
Oh,
host
okay.
of Splat from the
Yeah,
Past.
and that's you're correct. It was him. Because
Mm-hmm.
I remember the whole thing now. Because when I
Yep.
saw your name, I said, I know this guy. How do I know
Mm-hmm.
this guy? And yeah, okay, yeah. And so I don't I'm not in the business per se. I don't have an agent. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not looking to audition for nothing. I'm just doing these little films. They don't pay much. They're
Mm-hmm.
very low budget, but I'm playing really good parts. And I
Yep.
figured if they get out enough, maybe somebody will see it and offer me a really good role in something where I get paid more than $1.380, and that'll be good too. But
Yeah.
but I'm happy to be doing these films for Joe and James, and that makes me happy. I've never been one to need a lot of money. I would like to have a lot of money, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
need a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
obviously, obviously, I need to buy a new mic.
Actually, you know what? This is fine. Your phone actually, maybe that's what worked before. I've had guests before where they had to go to a different device to do the interview. I'm really, not tech savvy either, so but I'm glad we're able to do this and make this work and further celebrate American pop and the rest of your career. And yeah, I got to dive in and talk more because we did mention Joe Black on the last interview. So I was reaching in there to see what I could find for new content. But uh, next year I'll reach out again and I'll have to remember the tech thing. And maybe you'll have some of the films out and we can talk about them more in detail.
You should contact him. He's on Facebook, and
Hmm.
he he's a real good. He's a real smart guy. He knows about film, and he would have a lot to say. I think you would enjoy your interview with him.
You know what? I think I will. I'll get him and Kat both.
Oh yeah, she's great. She's
Hmm.
great.
I
But
think that's what I'll do.
definitely contact him. And
Absolutely.
he just did a podcast for Kevin Smith.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I love
actually,
Kevin Smith.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
we got it. And
Absolutely.
definitely contact Joe.
I will. I will. And I'll tell him uh, how much you appreciate his interest in you. And yeah.
Good.
But you know
I'll
what?
tell
This
him
is,
huh?
huh? What you saying? You'll tell him what?
I'll just tell him to be looking out for you.
I'll do that. Yeah. Well, you know what? I appreciate having you on here again. This has been a lot of fun, and yeah, keep in touch, and we'll do this again. And
All right.
yeah,
When I get something on released, I'll let you know.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, God bless you. Thank you so much. And before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Sure.
Just state your
And
name.
you'll let me know when this is when you're airing this.
Yes, I will.
Okay. So what do you
Yep.
want me to say?
Just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
This is Ron Thompson, and you are listening to Greg Gilbert on Python Paradise.
Absolutely. Folks, we've been celebrating American Pop, where Mr. Ron Thompson does 2 roles. Yes, absolutely. And he's going to do a lot more than that for Mr. Joe Black. Absolutely. We'll be on the lookout for those. Thank you so much. You have yourself a wonderful evening.
Peace.
Peace out.